Hey guys, it's me, Miss Norris, and today, in honor of Black History Month, I'd like to share with you the story of Rosa Parks. The story of Rosa Parks is going to be told in the read aloud Rosa, and this story was written in 2005 by Nikki Giovanni, and it was illustrated by Bryan Collier. And as you can see, it's a Caldecott Honor book. And if you're ready to hear the true story of Rosa Parks, I'm ready to share it with you. Here we go. Rosa. You can see some illustrations of people riding on the bus. The bus plays an important role in the life of Rosa Parks. Here's Rosa Parks getting on the bus, getting off the bus, waving from the bus. Mrs. Parks was having a good day. Mother was getting over the touch of the flu and was up this morning for breakfast at the table. Her husband, Raymond Parks, one of the best barbers in the county, had been asked to take on extra work at the Air Force Base. And the first day of December was always special because you could just feel Christmas in the air. So Mrs. Parks was starting to feel a little bit better and could come down to the table. Dad was taking on some more jobs cutting hair. Everybody knew the alterations department would soon be very busy. Mrs. Parks would laugh each year with the other seamstresses and say that those elves in the North Pole have nothing on us. The women of Montgomery, both young and older, would come in with their fancy holiday dresses that needed adjustments, or their Sunday suits and blouses that needed just a touch, a flower or some velvet trimming or something to make the ladies look festive. Rosa Parks was the best seamstress. The needle and thread flew through her hands like gold spinning from Rumpelstiltskin's loom. The other seamstresses would tease Rosa Parks and say she used magic. Rosa would laugh. Not magic, just concentration, she would say. Some days she would skip lunch to be finished on time. So we're meeting Rosa Parks, and Rosa Parks is a seamstress. That means she sews clothes, and she's one of the best sewers. And she says all it takes is some concentration, not magic. This Thursday, they had gotten a bit ahead of their schedule. "Why don't you go home, Rosa?" said the supervisor. "I know your mother is feeling poorly and you might want to look in on her." The supervisor knew Rosa would stay until the work was done, but it was only December 1st. No need to push. Rosa appreciated that. Now she could get home early, and since Raymond would be working late, maybe she would surprise him with a meatloaf, his favorite. "See you in the morning." Rosa waved goodbye and headed for the bus stop. She fiddled in her pocket for a dime so that she would not have to ask for change. When she stepped up to drop her fare in, she was smiling in anticipation of the nice dinner she would make. As was the evil custom, she then got off the bus and went to the back door to enter the bus from the rear. So she's excited to be going home early and she wants to have exact change, but she enters the bus in the front and then has to get off the bus and go get on in the rear of the bus because this was a different time in America and things weren't always fair. Rosa saw that the section reserved for blacks was full, but she noticed the neutral section, the part of the bus where blacks or whites could sit, had free seats. The left side of the aisle had 2 seats, and on the right side a man was sitting next to the window. Rosa decided to sit next to him. She did not remember his name, but she knew his face. His son Jimmy came frequently to the NAACP Youth Council affairs. They exchanged pleasantries as the bus pulled away from the curb. Rosa settled her sewing bag and her purse near her knees, trying not to crowd Jimmy's father. Men take up more space, she was thinking as she tried to squish her packages closer. The bus made several more stops, and 2 seats opposite her were filled by blacks. She sat on her side of the aisle, daydreaming about her good day and planning her special meal for her husband. So in these times, there were there were 3 sections on the bus. A section for only white people, a section for only black people, and a section where Rosa is sitting, which is made for both black and white people. And she's just enjoying her ride home. I said, give me those seats, the bus driver bellowed. Oh, did I skip a page? No, I didn't. The 2 men on the opposite side, I said, give me those seats, the bus driver bellowed. Mrs. Parks looked up in surprise. The 2 men on the opposite side of the aisle were rising to move into the crowded black section. Jimmy's father muttered more to himself than anyone else. I don't feel like any trouble today. I'm going to move. Mrs. Parks stood to let him out, looked at James Blake, the bus driver, and then sat back down. So while she was daydreaming, the bus driver came to the back of the bus where she was sitting and demanded the seats that she was sitting in to give to new travelers that were white. And Jimmy's father got up and moved because he didn't want any trouble. But Rosa sat back down. You better make it easy on yourself, Blake yelled. Why do you pick on us? Mrs. Parks asked with that quiet strength of hers. I'm going to call the police, Blake threatened. Do what you must, Mrs. Parks quietly replied. She was not frightened. She was not going to give in to that which was wrong. Some of the white people were saying aloud, She ought to be arrested, and take her off this bus. Some of the black people, recognizing the potential for ugliness, got off the bus. Others stayed on, saying amongst themselves, That is the neutral section. She has a right to be there. Mrs. Parks sat. So, simply by sitting, Rosa Parks is making people feel a lot of different ways. She's making a lot of the white people feel very angry. She should be thrown off this bus. She's making the black people that are on the bus feel nervous for their safety, and they've gotten off the bus. And there's some people who agree. She was in the neutral section. She has every right to that seat. What would you do? As Mrs. Parks sat waiting for the police to come, she thought of all the brave men and women, boys and girls, who stood tall for civil rights. She recited in her mind the 1954 Brown v. Board of Education decision in which the United States Supreme Court ruled that separate is inherently unequal. She sighed as she realized she was tired. Not tired from work, but tired of putting white people first. Tired of stepping off sidewalks to let white people pass. Tired of eating at separate lunch counters and learning at separate schools. She was tired of colored entrances, colored balconies, colored drinking fountains, and colored taxis. She was tired of getting somewhere first and being waited on last. Tired of separate and definitely tired of not equal. So Rosa, she's tired. She's tired of a lot of things, and I think she has every right to be. So she's getting ready to stand up, rise up. And she's thinking of her brave brothers and sisters who came before her. She thought about her mother and her grandmother and knew that they would want her to be strong. She had not sought this moment, but she was ready for it. When the policeman bent down to ask, Auntie, aren't you going to move? All the strength of all the people through all those many years joined in her. And Rosa Parks said no. So A lot of people are trying to be kind in a backhanded way, which means they're trying to make it seem like they're helping her, but they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing anyways. And she sat. Joanne Robinson was at the Piggly Wiggly when she learned of the arrest. She had stopped in to purchase a box of macaroni and cheese. She always served macaroni and cheese when she baked red snapper for dinner. A sister member of the Women's Political Council approached her just as she reached the checkout lane. "Not Mrs. Parks," Mrs. Robinson exclaimed. She then looked furtively around. "Pass the word that everybody should meet me at my office at 10 o'clock tonight," she said. Mrs. Robinson was also Dr. Robinson, a professor at Alabama State, the college designated for colored people, and she was the newly elected president of the Women's Political Council. She rushed home to put dinner on the table, cleaned up the kitchen, and put the kids to bed. She kissed her husband goodbye and hurried to the college. It was dark when they finally gathered. So Mrs. Robinson was shopping for some groceries when she heard that Miss Parks was arrested, and she's told everyone to spread the word to come to her office at the college after dark. Excuse me. The 25 women first held hands in prayer in hopes that they were doing the right thing. After all, they were going to use the stencil maker, printer, and paper of Alabama State without permission. If they were caught at the college, they all could be arrested for trespassing. But they were working to undermine a vicious law. They decided they would stand under the umbrella of courage Rosa Parks had offered, keeping off the reins of fear and self-disgust. The women quickly formed groups to carry out each task. Making the stencils was the most difficult because the machine keys had to be struck very hard so that the letters would be clearly readable. If a mistake was made, the whole page had to be thrown out. It took a lot of concentration. So back before there were computers, people used stencils to make fancy signs so that they had nice writing, and they're all a little bit nervous because they're using all the materials at the college, but they know that they're doing it for a good cause. The cause of Rosa Parks. The posters read, "No riders today. Support Mrs. Parks. Stay off the buses. Walk on Monday." The women made enough posters for almost every citizen of color in Montgomery. The next morning, as people read the posters, they remembered the joy they felt when the Supreme Court declared that separate was not equal. They were sure that once the highest court in the land had spoken, they would not be treated so badly. But that was not the case. Soon after the ruling, Emmett Till, a 14-year-old boy in Money, Mississippi, was viciously lynched. At his funeral, more than 100,000 people mourned with his mother. She left his casket open, saying, "I want the world to see what they did to my boy." Now, only weeks after his killers were freed, Rosa Parks had taken a courageous stand. The people were ready to stand with her. So the Supreme Court ruled that separate was not equal, and everyone thought things would become better and the conditions would be better. But it didn't get better, and a young boy was killed. That's what lynching is. He was killed, and everyone is upset, to say the least. And they said, "We're going to stand with Rosa." They came together in a great mass meeting. The Women's Political Council, the NAACP, and all the churches. They needed someone to speak for them, to give voice to the injustice. Everyone agreed that the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. would be ideal. "We will stay off the buses," Dr. King intoned. "We will walk until justice runs like water and righteousness like a mighty stream." So they got Martin Luther King Jr. to be their spokesman, and he says, we're going to stay off those buses until fairness runs like water. And all of these people are listening, and all of these people are staying off the buses. And the people walked. They walked in the rain. They walked in the hot sun. They walked early in the morning. They walked late at night. They walked at Christmas, and they walked at Easter. They walked on the 4th of July. They walked on Labor Day. They walked on Thanksgiving. And then it was almost Christmas again. They still walked. So imagine having to fight for your rights, for not getting off a seat on a bus for over a year. Now I'm going to open this up because it's a special magical opening book. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show the whole thing all at once. Let's see. I'll start down here and I'll keep on going, but you can see kind of the end of the story. People from all over the United States, sorry guys, people from all over the United States sent shoes and coats and money so that the citizens of Montgomery could walk. Everyone was proud of their nonviolent movement, and the sole force that bound the community together would sustain many marches for the years of struggle that were yet to come. So other people that didn't live in Montgomery said, we agree with you, Montgomery, and they sent shoes and coats, shoes so that people could walk, coats so they could walk when it was cold, money so that they could keep on going. And they did. They kept on going. On November 13th, 1956, almost a year after the arrest of Rosa Parks, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that segregation on buses, like segregation at schools, was illegal. Segregation was wrong. Rosa Parks said no so that the Supreme Court could remind the nation that the Constitution of the United States makes no provision for second-class citizenship. We are all equal under the law and are all entitled to its protection. So it took a long time and a long walk to freedom. But finally the Supreme Court said, you're right. This is illegal and there is no segregation. There's no segregation allowed. But people still didn't really want to, not everybody wanted to follow those laws, and it took a really long time and still not completely done for things to be fair. And this is a last sentence. The integrity, the dignity, the quiet strength of Rosa Parks turned her no into a yes for change. And so Rosa Parks' no changed the world for very many people. And that is why today, during American Black History Month, February, we are celebrating Rosa Parks and all she has done to bring freedom. The end. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed the story Rosa, please hit that thumbs up button at the bottom of the page. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot to me. If you're not a subscriber yet, please click that subscribe button down at the bottom of the page, and don't forget to click the bell so that you're notified when there's new content. And last but not least, I'd like to say a big thank you to the entire Howie family for loaning me an amazing collection of books that I could share with you all during this Black History Month. Thank you, and I'll see you all again real soon. Bye-bye.